Children hear monks and dogs on the air. Radio Digest, January 16th, 1926. With motion pictures, zoos in the city parks, and practical facts about natural history in the schools, children are becoming almost too sophisticated for such stories as The Three Bears and Peter Rabbit. Purely imaginary, says Willie with a yawn when Mother starts the pretty little tale of Goldilocks. I grant you that bears growl and they live in the woods. They might even take up an abode in an abandoned hunter's cabin, furnished in a meager way with chairs and beds. But when it comes to cooking and passing remarks such as, "Who's been sitting in my chair?" and all that rot, I simply cannot believe it. In the first place, bears lack the vocal equipment to articulate words devised by the genus Homo. It's absurd, I might almost add presumptuous, for a presumably intelligent parent to even attempt to foist such nonsense onto the credulity of a trusting child. Something should be done about it. These childish illusions which have endured for generations must be preserved by some means or other. Perhaps radio will solve the problem. As a suggestion, would it not be a sure way to interest Willie if he could actually hear real honest-to-goodness bears growling while the good story lady tells the tale? Steps in this direction have already been taken. At Universal City, California, they have a zoo where the jungle chatter is especially animated. The least little incident starts off a veritable cascade of animal palaver that winds up with every beast trying to make himself heard at the same time. Whoever started the rumor that animals are dumb should pay a visit here. You take Jiggs, always in trouble with his family or some other monk's family. If Maggie happens to be busy with the little Jiggses at one side of the cage, Jiggs, likely as not, may be chinning with Mrs. Jocko, widow of that old coconut milk soak who passed out 3 months ago. Well, the Bam Bam monks in the next cage tune in, get excited, and jabber their opinions to every other creature within hearing, until the tale, greatly exaggerated, reaches Leo, the lion. Then the whole zoo is in an uproar, and over nothing at all. Carl Laemmle, paterfamilias to the Universal Institution in general, got the idea the children would like to listen in on some of this jungle powwow, so we had a microphone brought up for the animals to make their radio debut. Jiggs started it off and Leo ended it. The children pronounced it a great success. It was over a year ago that the golden notes of the English Nightingale were wafted into a concealed microphone and broadcast to radio listeners throughout the British Isles, and even so far as the continent. A pair of the Nightingales had taken up their residence in a small arbor in the garden of Colonel and Mrs. Harrison's estate near London. Cables were laid through the vines and a microphone ambushed among the leaves. Miss Beatrice Harrison, having previously discovered that the birds found inspiration in her cello, carried the instrument out to a convenient place and began to play. Seemingly flattered by such an unusual accompaniment, the nightingales fluttered near and took up the song, their tiny throats fairly bursting with throbbing melody. Off through the cables and the tubes and the antenna, their voices were instantly radiated for 1,000 or more miles roundabout, bringing intense joy to children and their elders in the more crowded districts of the city, where nightingales are unknown. We are enraptured with the songs of the birds, but few persons would care to compliment the sea lions for their vocal accomplishments. Imagine a sea lion duet. They are like some radio sets. Plenty of volume, but low-grade quality. However, in the New York Zoological Park, a microphone was placed at the edge of the pool where the sea lions live. To a sea lion, volume is the essence of quality in itself, and the sea lion that can croak and bark the loudest gets the prima donna role. So the prima donna and the runner-up put on a duet that almost knocked everything but the crystal sets out of business for miles around. Dogs on numerous occasions have had their turn at broadcasting. One of the most intelligent dog radio artists naturally lives in Boston. His name is Pep, and the hundreds of thousands of children who spend the story hour with Big Brother Bob Emery are acquainted with Pep's cheerful ejaculations at appropriate times. Pep is the original big radio dog. He enjoys the WEEI story hour as much as anybody, and seems to fully comprehend what is expected of him. When he addresses the microphone, he puts his paws on Brother Bob's shoulders, and his jaws come about level with the aperture. If he were to stand up straight on his hind legs, Big Brother Bob would come about to Pep's collar buckle. Maud, Julie, and Trixie, 3 music-loving young elephants at Luna Park, New York, prefer to do their broadcasting in the old-fashioned way, without the aid of radio transmission. But when it comes to listening in, just hand them a good superhet and they will tickle the dials with the sensitive tips of their trunks until they get what they want through the loudspeaker. Then they will sit back on some old tubs and listen with the keenest pleasure. They are particularly fond of band music, and sway their bodies when the rhythm isn't too fast. Some smart uncle or aunt or big brother will get the animals together one of these days and put on a regular air circus. Peter Rabbit may be lost in the broadcast shuffle, but the 3 bears ought to be able to do their stuff with a little assistance, and then happy days will come for our over-sophisticated youngsters.